Let's get into some of the big news. Now, obviously, we all know that there was an attempt on the former president, Mr. Donald J. Trump. And thankfully, he failed at that. There are many times in history, and I don't want to bore you with all of the details, when some horrific event happens, people react to the event, and a little bit later, people start to dive into the money. And with some of said events, people were betting on it, as if they knew before. They attempted to profit off of something that no one should have known about, a truly horrific event. And some of them in the past have made a ton of money. And in this current situation, something is starting to smell a little bit fishy. Now that the week is progressing and we know who the VP pick is, and obviously Mr. Trump himself is obviously healthy and safe, that's all good. People started to dive a little bit into the ongoings of the stock market. And in this specific example, they started to dive into the options market, and they realized that there's a player out there who allegedly took a massive bearish position against not only DJT, which is the ticker symbol of Truth Social, but also RUM, which is the ticker symbol of Rumble. It was all filed before we even got into the weekend of all the crazy events. So people are saying, whoa. And now from that point, we have an update from the company and actually saying, whoa, brother, that was an error. Here's what they had to say. The SEC filing, which showed that Austin Private Wealth shorted large number of shares of Trump Media and Technology Group, aka DJT, was incorrect, and we immediately amended it as soon as we learned of the error. What? No client of APW holds or has ever held a put on DJT in the quantity initially reported. For those of you who don't know, if you own a put, it's not directly shorting a stock, but you still benefit if the stock goes down. The correct holding amount was 12 contracts or 1.2 thousand shares, not 12 million shares, was filed in error. In submitting the required report for the second quarter of 2024, a multiplier was applied by a third-party vendor that increased the number of shares by a multiple of 10,000 for all options contracts, not just DJT. We did not catch the error before approving the filing. So with this, I didn't want to take anyone on their word, but if you look into it, their filing was completely wrong across the board. It wasn't just DJT, it wasn't just Rumble. They did have this multiplication error wrong across the board, but it still brings up what, you don't vet your third-party vendor, you don't look at what you're submitting. This is an official SEC filing, and even beyond that, the number being large or small, they're not saying they didn't have any bearish position, they're just saying it wasn't as big as what really the internet started to dive into. And just remember, if you have 12 put contracts, 12,000, you are not directly shorting the stock. Remember, on the options contracts, it's a derivative market. Now, the people who sold it to you, the market maker, aka the dealer, to hedge their book, if they sell a bunch of puts, they're gonna go short just in case. That's how it works. It's called hedging. So whether it's these 12 million shares, that doesn't mean you're actually short that many shares. My point is that yes, they were still bearish, but it just, the sizing of it is what's in question. And then from there, because this was like big news, people started to dive into it a little bit more, and they noticed that something was a little up. So if you want to look at this yourself and see what's going on, you could come to Fintel. I would never use them for short interest, but you can see who has large holdings. And this is what they're talking about. Austin Private Wealth shares 12 million. And they're getting the shares from the put position. But you can see here, this is all from the 13F filing. That's what's required. If you're a big player, you have 13 Fs, Ds, and Gs. Basically, if you're managing a bunch of money, once a quarter, you have to report what you had, but that's not the date of the trade. A lot of people are saying,
oh, they shorted it the day before because it was filed on Friday, July 12th.
That's just the date it was filed. That's not necessarily the date that it was actually truly traded. I want to clarify that. That's just the date of filing, and we're actually going to see from them, well, you could see from what I was posting a little bit ago, it was actually, the trade was executed in June, so it wasn't executed on that date. There's a big difference between the filing date and the actual trade date. Once again, you could check this out yourself on Fintel. But even from here, then people started to dive into it. They go into the rabbit hole as they do, and they're like, look it, they have BlackRock. Now, I'm no fan of BlackRock, but I do want to point out that if you look at the largest holdings of probably any fund manager, this company APW, they're just long the overall market. S&P 500, that is the overall market. Vanguard Russell 1000, that's a little bit just a bigger swath. If you look at all these ETFs and exchange traded fund or these mutual funds, APW, all they're doing is getting baskets of exposure to different aspects of the overall market. And that's exactly what this BlackRock equity factor rotation is. I'm not a fan of BlackRock. I never would be a fan of BlackRock. It's going to be very, very difficult to find a large money manager for people, a wealth manager that doesn't have exposure to Vanguard or BlackRock, simply because they basically are the stock market. They have so much exposure to everything, and everyone wants their ETFs and their mutual funds, that when you're managing big money, you have to go out to the other big guys to be able to buy the products off of them. It doesn't really absolve them, like maybe there was something going on, but it's also not like hardcore evidence. I just want to bring that up. As of market close, DJT short interest was 19.15%. The shares on loan, 21 million, and the amount of money betting against it is about 420 million. That's how much money is betting DJT in real time will go down. Cost to borrow, 21%, utilization almost maxed out. So these are the numbers for DJT. But with all this being said, people started to notice it wasn't just DJT, it was also Rumble right here, 34 million shares from Austin Private Wealth. Once again, they're saying, oh, actually, our decimal was completely off. We didn't have that. We didn't have 34 million shares short. And with the 100,000 by the time you're doing it, they're basically trying to argue that, no, we had far less than that, like by a magnitude. So who's off? I don't know. Is it Fintel? Is Austin Private Wealth lying? Is BlackRock? Are they in cahoots with them? All of these are fair things to ask, but like, I would say that some of these things are measurable, and like we can't run completely down the rabbit hole of conspiracy. Some things are real and accurate, and other things, okay, we just need a little bit more information. If you want to know the short interest against Rumble, it's right here, 17%, also worth about $100 million. The cost to borrow ticking up to 18%, and utilization also almost maxed out at 94%. So yes, are there big dollars betting against both True Social and Rumble? Yes, without a doubt. Was Austin Private Wealth, APW, betting against these? Yes. Did they execute the trade the day before the weekend, the day before the attempt on Donald Trump's life? No, the trade was actually executed a bit earlier in June, but yes, it was still executed. They're saying it wasn't at the size being reported and it was a mess up. Personally, I find that a little bit suspect. Obviously, there's a ton going on, but just the fact that this is becoming a huge trending thing, and obviously for good reason, I wanted to get out what's real, what's not real, and kind of what's the suspect stuff in the middle. Obviously, if there's any questions, comments, or concerns on this whole thing, please let me know. Let me know in a comment. I will do my best to answer it, but obviously it's always paramount to get truthful, accurate, measurable information out there. Let you guys know what's a little bit of conjecture, and obviously things that are just provably wrong. I think we should obviously get ahead of that, because if you want anyone in this entire world to listen to you, well, as soon as they could prove you wrong on something, they're going to start listening. So I think it's paramount to always head in the North Star's direction of truth and accuracy, especially when it comes to things such as financial products.